I never thought I'd be posting here, but I need to get this off my chest. My wife Sarah, 36F, and I have been married for 12 years. We met in college, fell in love quickly, and had what I thought was a strong, honest relationship built on trust and communication. Sarah works as an administrative assistant at a local high school. She's always been dedicated to her job, often staying late for school events or coming home with stories about the faculty drama. I work in IT, and my schedule can be demanding with occasional weekend support, but they always made it work. About 8 months ago, things started to change. Sarah began arriving home later than usual, sometimes not until 8 or 9 p.m. When I asked about it, she brushed it off with excuses about extra work, faculty meetings, or helping with school activities. I didn't think much of it at first. The school year was busy, and she always been committed to her job. Then came the mysterious text messages. She smiled at her phone, then quickly put it away when I entered the room. When I asked who she was texting, she say, just Karen from work, or planning committee stuff. I believed her because, well, why wouldn't I? We never had trust issues before. The changes in her behavior were subtle at first. New clothes, more makeup, a different perfume. She started going to the gym regularly, something she shown little interest in before. When I complimented her on looking great, she just said she wanted to feel better about herself. Again, I thought nothing of it. Our sex life, which had always been satisfying if somewhat routine, dwindled. She was too tired, or had a headache, most nights. When we did have sex, she seemed distant, going through the motions. Once or twice, she tried things we never done before, and when I asked where she learned that, she got defensive and said she read it in a magazine. Last month, she mentioned a new English teacher, Mr. Thompson, who had joined the faculty. He's really shaking things up in the English department, she say, or Mr. Thompson suggested this great book for us to read. I was happy she seemed enthusiastic about work again. Yesterday, I was grabbing coffee near the school and thought I'd surprise Sarah with her favorite latte. As I approached the school parking lot, I saw her in her car. She wasn't alone. A man, tall, with dark hair, was leaning into her window. They were laughing. Then he kissed her. Not a friendly peck, but the kind of kiss that leaves no doubt. I froze. My stomach dropped. I couldn't move as I watched them talk for another minute before he walked toward the school building. Sarah sat in her car, checking her makeup in the mirror. A smile I hadn't seen in months on her face. I didn't confront her. I drove home in a daze, the coffee growing cold beside me. When she came home that evening, she acted completely normal. Asked about my day. Told me about a stressful faculty meeting. Lied right to my face with a smile. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to confront her immediately, but another part wants to gather more evidence. I can't believe this is happening to us. To me, this is just the beginning of my story. There's so much more that happened after this day, and it gets much worse. After catching Sarah and Mr. Thompson kissing in the parking lot, I spent the next week in a fog of confusion and pain. I didn't confront her immediately. I needed to be certain before blowing up our marriage. Maybe it was just a momentary lapse in judgment? Maybe I was overreacting? I decided to do some investigating. I checked our phone bill and found dozens of texts and calls to the same number at odd hours. When Sarah was in the shower, I looked at her phone. She had changed her password, but I knew her patterns. It was our anniversary date backward. What I found made me physically ill. Messages between her and Michael were explicit and numerous. They'd been seeing each other for nearly 6 months, meeting during lunch breaks, after school, and even some afternoons when she claimed to be working late. There were photos I wish I could unsee and detailed accounts of their encounters. Worse, there were messages mocking me, calling me clueless and boring in bed. One text from Sarah to him read, "He actually believes I am at curriculum planning meetings 3 nights a week. Tears of joy." Another, "Can't wait for tomorrow. I'll tell him I am helping with the drama club fundraiser." I took screenshots and sent them to myself, then deleted the evidence from her sent items. I needed time to think. The following Tuesday, Sarah told me she had to stay late for a parent-teacher committee meeting. I nodded and said I'd probably work late too. Instead, I left early and parked a block from the school. At 4:30, I watched her car leave the parking lot. I followed at a distance as she drove not to the school district office as she claimed, but to an apartment complex on the other side of town. I waited 20 minutes, then walked to the building. The directory showed M. Thompson in apartment 307. Taking a deep breath, I went up to the third floor. Outside his door, I could hear music playing softly. I stood there for a full minute, my heart pounding, before finally knocking. No answer. I knocked again, harder. Still nothing. Then I tried the doorknob, it was unlocked. I know I shouldn't have entered, but something in me snapped. I pushed the door open. The apartment was dimly lit. From the bedroom, I heard laughter, her laughter, followed by moans. Walking slowly down the hallway, I pushed open the bedroom door. There they were, my wife and her lover, completely naked on his bed. They didn't notice me at first, too engrossed in each other. When Sarah finally saw me standing in the doorway, she screamed. "What the fuck are you doing here?" she shrieked, scrambling to cover herself with a sheet. Thompson jumped up, grabbing for his pants. "Man, this isn't what it looks like." "Really? Because it looks exactly like my wife fucking her coworker," I said, surprisingly calm despite the hurricane inside me. "How did you find me? Have you been following me?" Sarah yelled, her face contorted with anger rather than shame. "You had no right. No right? No right? I am your husband," I shouted, finally losing my composure. "You need to leave," Thompson said, trying to sound authoritative while standing there in boxers and an unbuttoned shirt. "Oh, I'll leave. But she's coming with me. We need to talk, Sarah." "I am not going anywhere with you," she spat. "You overreacting. This isn't a big deal." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Not a big deal? You've been lying to me for months. Cheating on me for months. Well, maybe if you paid more attention to me instead of your stupid computer games and work, I wouldn't need to find satisfaction elsewhere," she screamed, tears streaming down her face. "Michael makes me feel alive. When was the last time you did that?" I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "So this is my fault? Just get out," she yelled, throwing a pillow at me. "Get out and leave us alone." I looked at them both, these strangers who had destroyed my life, and walked out. In the hallway, I could hear Sarah sobbing dramatically and Thompson trying to comfort her. I drove home in a daze, packed a bag, and checked into a hotel. That night, my phone exploded with texts from Sarah, alternating between blaming me, begging forgiveness, and threatening me if I told anyone about her affair. The next day would bring even more shocking revelations about just how deep her deception went. The morning after I caught Sarah and Michael together, I woke up in my hotel room to 27 missed calls and over 40 text messages from my wife. They ranged from furious accusations, "How dare you invade my privacy like that?" to tearful apologies, "Please come home. I made a terrible mistake," to bizarre justifications, "It didn't mean anything, it was just physical." I ignored them all and called my office to take a few personal days. Then I contacted a lawyer who specialized in divorce cases. The consultation was eye-opening. When I showed him the screenshots of Sarah's messages, he advised me to gather more evidence of her infidelity and to be extremely careful about my next moves. "Your wife seems volatile," he said. "And in my experience, people who are this reckless often have other secrets." He wasn't wrong. When I finally returned to our house that afternoon to collect more of my things, I found Sarah waiting for me. She called in sick to school and had clearly been crying, though I couldn't tell if the tears were from remorse or rage. "Where have you been?" she demanded as I walked through the door. "I've been worried sick." "Worried tell everyone at your precious school about you and Thompson?" I asked calmly. Her face changed instantly. "You wouldn't dare. It would humiliate us both." "I am already humiliated, Sarah. You made sure of that." She followed me upstairs as I packed more clothes. "Look, I made a mistake, okay? It just happened. Michael and we connected over books and poetry, and it just evolved. But it doesn't have to end our marriage. We can work through this." I turned to look at her. "Work through this? You've been sleeping with him for 6 months. You mocked me to him. You lied to my face every single day. Everyone makes mistakes," she screamed, suddenly switching tactics. "Don't act so high and mighty. I know you looked at that receptionist at your Christmas party last year." I almost laughed at the absurdity. Looking at someone versus sleeping with them for half a year are slightly different things, don't you think? It's the same thing. Emotional cheating is still cheating. Her logic was baffling. As I packed, I decided to check our home filing cabinet for financial documents my lawyer had advised me to secure. That's when I found them. Credit card statements from an account I didn't know existed, hidden behind our tax returns. "What are these?" I asked, holding up the statements. Sarah's face went white. "Those are private." I scanned the charges. Expensive restaurants, hotel rooms, a weekend getaway to a coastal resort, all dated over the past 8 months. And then, most disturbing of all, charges to a fertility clinic. "A fertility clinic? What the hell, Sarah?" She snatched the statements from my hand. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it? Because it looks like you've been trying to get pregnant while barely having sex with me. Were you planning to pass off his kid as mine?" Her silence told me everything. "Oh my God," I whispered. "You were." "It's not like that," she protested. We want different things. You've been putting off having children for years. Michael wants a family now. So you were going to trick me into raising another man's child?" The level of betrayal was unfathomable. "You twisting everything," she screamed, tears streaming down her face. "This is why I couldn't talk to you. You always twist my words." I closed my suitcase. "I am filing for divorce. You can communicate with me through my lawyer from now on." As I headed for the door, she grabbed my arm. "If you leave now, you'll regret it," she hissed. "I'll tell everyone you were abusive. I'll make sure you lose everything." I carefully removed her hand. "Go ahead and try. I have the text messages, remember? I have proof of your affair and your plans." Her face contorted with rage. "You fucking bastard. This is all your fault. If you had been a better husband, I wouldn't have needed to find someone else." I walked out the door as she continued screaming obscenities and threats. As I drove away, my phone dinged with a text from an unknown number. It was Thompson. "We need to talk." Sarah isn't who you think she is. Apparently, I had only scratched the surface of my wife's deception. After receiving that cryptic text from Michael Thompson, I debated whether I should even respond. The last person I wanted to talk to was the man who'd been sleeping with my wife. But curiosity got the better of me, and I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop across town the next day. When I arrived, Thompson was already there, looking nervous and considerably less confident than he had in his apartment. He stood up when he saw me. "Thanks for coming," he said. "I know I am the last person you want to see right now." "You got that right," I replied coldly. "You have 5 minutes." He took a deep breath. "I need to apologize first. What I did was wrong, and I am not here to make excuses." "Great apology. Is that all?" "No," he said, lowering his voice. "There are things you need to know about Sarah. Things I only discovered recently myself." He pulled out his phone and showed me a series of messages from someone named Allison B. As I read them, my blood ran cold. "Who's Allison?" I asked. "My ex-girlfriend. A teacher at Westridge High," Thompson explained. "Sarah told me she was single when we met. Said she was divorced. I only found out she was still married to you about 2 months ago, when I saw her with you at that fundraiser at the Millers." I remembered that night. Sarah had been irritable the entire evening, claiming she had a migraine. When I confronted her, Thompson continued, "She broke down and told me you two were separated but still living together while finalizing the divorce. She said you were emotionally abusive and controlling. That you monitored her movements and checked her phone. That you refused to let her go." I felt sick. "None of that is true." "I know that now," he nodded. "After I saw you at my apartment, something didn't add up. Your reaction wasn't what I expected from the monster she described. So I started asking questions at school. That's when Allison reached out." He explained that Allison had recognized Sarah from Thompson's social media. Apparently, Sarah wasn't just an administrative assistant. She'd been a teacher at Westridge 3 years ago, where she had an affair with the married principal. When that relationship imploded, she transferred to our district, changing her employment history and lying about her teaching background. "And that's not all," Thompson said grimly. "Sarah's been seeing someone else too. A guy named Eric who coaches basketball at the community center. He thought she was just casually dating me as well." My head was spinning. How many relationships is she juggling? "At least 3 that I know of. You, me, and Eric. And Allison mentioned rumors about a school board member too." Thompson showed me more messages and photos that confirmed everything. Sarah had created elaborate lies for each of us, tailoring her story to make each man feel special while villainizing the others. The fertility clinic visits, I said suddenly, remembering the credit card statements. Was she trying to? Thompson's face paled. She told me she couldn't have children, that it was a source of pain in her previous marriage. We sat in stunned silence for a moment. There's one more thing, he said finally. The most disturbing part. He pulled out a manila envelope and slid it across the table. Allison sent me these yesterday. Sarah left them in her classroom desk when she transferred. Inside were handwritten letters, dozens of them, chronicling affairs with married men dating back years before Sarah and I had even met. They read like trophies, detailed accounts of relationships she destroyed. Some included photos, wedding rings, even small keepsakes she taken from their homes. She's done this before, Thompson said quietly. Multiple times. I felt the room tilt. My entire marriage, my entire understanding of who Sarah was, had been a carefully constructed fiction. When I got back to my hotel room, I found the door slightly ajar. Inside, the room had been ransacked. My laptop was open, files from my lawyer strewn across the bed. And on the mirror, written in what looked like lipstick, were the words, "You'll pay for this." Sarah had found me, and she was spiraling out of control. The lipstick message on my hotel mirror was the final straw. I immediately called the police to report the break-in, then contacted my lawyer. He advised me to file for an emergency restraining order, which I did that same day. Sarah's behavior had become increasingly erratic and concerning. After leaving the hotel, I stayed with my brother across town. That night, Sarah bombarded both of us with calls and messages, alternating between threats, pleading, and bizarre claims that I was the one who had been unfaithful all along. She's completely rewriting history, my brother said, shocked after reading some of her texts. Has she always been this delusional? Had she? Looking back, there were red flags I dismissed throughout our marriage, inconsistencies in stories about her past, explosive reactions to minor questions, friends and family who mysteriously disappeared from her life after raising concerns about her. I attributed it all to stress or miscommunication. How blind I had been. The next day brought another unexpected twist. While at my lawyer's office reviewing divorce papers, I received a call from a woman who introduced herself as Rebecca Thompson, Michael's wife. Wait, Thompson is married? I asked, stunned. Yes, Rebecca said, her voice tight with anger. For 8 years. He moved out 6 months ago, claiming he needed space to find himself. I just found out about Sarah yesterday. We agreed to meet and compare notes. Rebecca brought with her financial records showing Thompson had drained their joint savings account, documents that would prove invaluable in both our divorce cases. Things moved quickly after that. Once I filed the restraining order and formal divorce papers, Sarah's facade completely crumbled. She showed up at my brother's house at 3 a.m., screaming in the front yard until neighbors called the police. When officers arrived, she claimed I had stolen money from her and was hiding her property. The police, already aware of the restraining order, took her into custody when she refused to leave. She was released the next morning, but the incident was documented, more evidence for our divorce proceedings. 2 days later, I received an email from a woman named Diane, claiming to be Sarah's former roommate from college. She had found me through social media after seeing my name in Sarah's recent posts, angry rants about me that Sarah had apparently been sharing online. I felt I had to warn you, Diane wrote. Sarah did exactly the same thing in college. Manufactured relationships, created elaborate lies, pitted people against each other. She was asked to leave our university after stalking a professor she'd been involved with. I've seen this pattern before, and it doesn't end well unless you completely disengage. Armed with mounting evidence about Sarah's history of deception and manipulation, my lawyer was able to expedite our divorce proceedings. The judge, after reviewing the documentation, including Sarah's break-in at the hotel, her violation of the restraining order, and statements from Thompson, Rebecca, and others, granted the divorce on grounds of adultery and emotional cruelty. Sarah didn't attend the final hearing. According to mutual acquaintances, she had already moved on, telling anyone who would listen that she was the victim of a narcissistic husband and his smear campaign. The divorce was finalized last week. I gave up some assets just to be done with it all, but managed to keep the house and my retirement accounts. Most importantly, I got my freedom and peace of mind. As for the others in Sarah's web, Thompson and Rebecca are working on reconciliation after he came clean about everything. Eric, the basketball coach, has filed his own restraining order against Sarah. And apparently, she's already been seen with someone new, a recently separated doctor she met at a coffee shop. The aftermath has been difficult. Trust doesn't come easily to me anymore. They started therapy to process everything and understand how I missed so many warning signs. Friends have been supportive, though many are as shocked as I was about Sarah's true nature. In a strange way, discovering Thompson wasn't just some predatory home wrecker but another victim in Sarah's game of manipulation has helped me heal. It wasn't just about sex or excitement or even love, it was about control and creating chaos. Sarah needs constant drama and validation, consequences be damned. Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night, wondering if the past 12 years were completely fake. Did she ever love me? Was anything real? But those questions have no answers, and dwelling on them only gives her continued power over my life. Instead, I am focusing on rebuilding. They reconnected with friends I lost touch with during my marriage, another red flag. Sarah had subtly isolated me from many of them. I am planning a trip they always wanted to take. And I am learning to trust my instincts again. If there's one thing they learned from all this, it's that sometimes the people who seem the most normal on the surface are hiding the most tumultuous depths. I don't know what made Sarah the way she is, and it's not my responsibility to figure it out anymore. For those who followed my story from the beginning, thank you for your support. The road ahead is uncertain, but for the first time in months, I am looking forward to it rather than dreading what new horror each day might bring. Many have asked for updates on Sarah. 2 days ago, I heard from a mutual friend that she's been let go from the school after inappropriate messages between her and a student's father came to light. They blocked her on everything and have no intention of ever speaking to her again, restraining order or not. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed it and learned from it. I appreciate your likes. Also, don't forget to subscribe and comment on the video. See you soon.